I'd like to call to order the River Trails District 26 Board of Education Community Engagement Meeting for October 5th, 2021. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Appreciate it. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Dr. Stolzer, could you please take roll, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna wing this because I don't have a computer. Right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Grimby?
Here.
Eureka?
Here.
Friedland? Here. Johnson? Here. Ronstadt?
Here.
Over? Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, well, welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope everybody brought their voices because we do want to hear from you tonight, and there's a few ways that we will be doing this. We're going to be talking about our facility needs for about the next 10 years. First of all, we're going to ask you to share your opinions about what some of the most important building maintenance, repairs, and enhancements are. Then we're going to share a little information about our most recent project, Prairie Trails Elementary School. And that's going to be followed by our architect and engineer sharing our facility needs, and finally we will discuss our finances. We will then spend the majority of the evening listening to your thoughts after our presentation. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce our Board of Education. I am Bill Grimpy, President of the School Board. Janine Friedland is here. She is the Vice President. Dr. Sue Stolzer is our Secretary. And we're also joined by Robert Ronstadt. There he is. Frank Fiorito. And Donna Johnson. And also we have an opening. If anyone is interested, please let me know. I can let you know where you can get the application. And we can hopefully get you to join the board. So without further ado, let me bring up Dr. Nancy Wagner. Thank you.
All right, well, we are going to start with a little bit of fun tonight. You might think my fun is not as fun, but you should have a piece of paper on your table that says spend a buck on it. If you are online, Ben is going to post for you an online sheet that will help you do the same thing. You have $1, you only have $1. If your math is bad, I won't call you on it, but you only have $1 to spend. And it's really 100 pennies. And what you need to tell us is how you want to spend that money. Right now, before you hear anything from us, when you think about our facilities, how would you like to spend your money? Would you like to spend it on improving indoor air quality? That's air. Safety, things like improving our sprinkler system. HVAC, essential heating and cooling system replacement. Green energy, improving energy efficiency. Roof, replacing our aging roofs. Or is there something else that you've been thinking about that you'd really like us to work on? Then you can put some of your money on other. So you're going to divide it up. Online version, you can find that link in the chat. And you can do this on your own. We're not going to force you to share it. We're not going to collect it later. So we may ask if anyone wants to share something with us. But for right now, just figure out how you'd like to spend your whole $1. Right now, we're on the blue sheet. Spend a buck. If you'd like to use that to figure that out, I'm going to steal a couple of these. Does anybody do anything on that?
Sorry. That's others. I just put it under others.
Okay. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, we'll see. See if it's online.
Exactly the same as class.
Yeah, we will have to slide down. You're doing the math on your phone?
No,
This is really for the whole list.
I used all full 10 pages, so the mental math was.
That is absolutely.
So hopefully, while you're finishing up, we can take a look at well, we only have 7 responses so far from the folks online. I don't know if you want to hit refresh again or if it's going to just pop open. So while they're doing that, if you'd like to share, would you raise your hand if you thought we should spend the most money on air quality? Anybody? I need my cheat sheet. How about safety? How about HVAC? Oh, all right. How about green energy? Our roofs? A few people may have had a leaky roof in their past. Anybody have anything other they'd like to share that came to mind? Shout it out.
I put landscaping.
Landscaping. Very nice.
Library media center.
Library media centers. Interesting. Anything else?
Overall interiors of the building.
Overall interiors of the building. Yes, especially being for children, how nice it looks in here. Ben, can you sort of scroll along? So the first one is air, then we've got safety, HVAC, green. Roofs seem pretty popular, and for someone, other, we've got space, bigger rooms, outdoor learning spaces, science labs, enhancing school student progress. Anything else on the bottom there? Oh, it's just 4. All right, so thank you for sharing that. If you want to move on to our next piece. Okay, you can switch to the next slide. So if you flip that blue piece of paper you have over, or if you're online, then we'll share the link with you. For me, when I'm listening to something, sometimes I want to know, what am I going to have to do with this information? So I gave you a little note sheet if you want to use it this way. If you don't want to take notes, that's fine. If you want to use it in some different ways, so you can just make little pictures, use it for your doodles, whatever works for you. If you look at it, it's a here's what, so what, now what. The here's what is any notes that you want to take about the things you hear, the actual things that our architects, our assistant superintendent tells you. And then the so what do they mean? That's your interpretation. And then now what? What are our conclusions? What are our questions that you still have? And our discussion will answer those questions. You'll answer those questions along with, what do you feel we must do after hearing this information? What would be nice to do? And what should we not even consider doing? So you'll be ready for that afterwards, thinking about our community priorities. So I am ready to call up Dr. Lyndall Schuster. Actually, I think, are you going to stay there or are you going to come up here? She's going to come up here. She's our assistant superintendent for business services, and she knows a lot about our buildings. Come on up. Sit right.
I think I'm a little shorter than Nancy. So welcome to Prairie Trail School. This is our newly renovated school. I don't know if any of you remember what it used to look like. It was in its original 1965 condition, and now it is beautiful. I just want to tell you a few things about the school and what we've done with it. Next. Okay, so First, some of the things that we've done that are good for the environment with this school. It is a net zero energy building. That means that over the course of a year, we produce more energy than we actually use. So we do that with solar panels to start with. You can see a picture of those. But we also have done it by making this building very energy efficient. We have a very energy efficient heating and cooling system. It's very refrigerant slow. It has a dedicated outdoor air system, so the ventilation is continuous. We're constantly getting fresh air in here. It uses heat recovery to be efficient. And one of the good things in the classrooms, there are no more univents along the windows that take up a lot of space. So there's more space in the classrooms for the children. We have LED lighting. You can look up there. And actually in this room, we have natural lighting that comes into the skylights. Vacancy sensors, so we're saving a lot of energy in that respect. The next slide. We have put in over-the-top amount of insulation along the walls and on the roof to help us be more efficient. The windows are very high energy efficient. Another thing we have done for the environment is the permeable paving. It actually saves us money over the long run, but it also alleviates flooding. There's less runoff and pretty much no pollutants that you get with asphalt. So we also believe that this school is good for the community. We have become a community leader for sustainability. It's the first building in Mount Prospect that's net zero energy. It's also the first renovated school that is net zero energy. And renovating a school actually is really good for the environment rather than tearing it down and throwing everything away and buying new. We have all of our district kindergartners in this one school in one place. That's given us more space at our other elementary schools. We're also able to have an integrated curriculum that is geared right towards our very earliest learners, which also helps them get a good start in their education. We've saved some money. We're saving $32,000 in utility costs every year. We've improved the ventilation and the air quality by that continuous ventilation that we have. And we've also alleviated flooding and improved the water quality in the communities. And I think one of the things that the children seem to really enjoy is our natural playground. It's open to the whole community. It's accessible. And it also has lots of trees and plants, so it is taking up that carbon dioxide as well. So now we have our architects who are going to tell you a little bit about, we're starting to think about our other schools now that we have this school done and what we need to do for them. So Ron Richardson and Troy Kerr from FDM will talk about the facility assessment they've done and what we might be able to do for our other buildings.
So, thanks, Lyndall. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Can everybody hear me? Yep. This? Is that better? Yeah. So, what I'd like to talk about tonight is I'm going to give you a little bit of history on your facilities. I'm going to touch on that briefly. Troy is going to run through and give you a high-level summary of what we found in this current facility assessment that we're wrapping up right now. Then I'm going to swing back and talk about why buildings matter to the educational system. And then finally, some additional comments on the proposed HVAC systems that we're looking at. So this is not a seeing eye chart. Sorry for the small font, but I'll just quickly recap here. Believe it or not, you just reached, Euclid Elementary School is having its 60th birthday this year. And it was built in 1961. So that's an interesting little factoid. And you can see that this is a comprehensive timeline of all of the buildings in the school district. And over the years, we've added facilities, put additions on. And then, as Lyndall said down here at the tail end, we just wrapped up in August, well, actually July. Did we get occupancy in July? We finished the deep energy retrofit for this facility. So there's been a lot of work in the district. And I wanted to point out that, the normal the average life expectancy for systems is anywhere from maybe 15 to 30 years. And so if you do the math here, you'll see that we've gone through multiple generations of system replacements in these buildings. And so this is an ongoing issue for your facilities, and it's an ongoing need to continue to invest in your facilities over time. And so fast forwarding to the recent future here, or recent history here, back in 2008, we initiated our facility assessment evaluation with Lindell and started the ball rolling with looking at all of the systems for the school district and started tracking those. And over the last several years, we've been making those repairs, investing money in mechanical systems, paving, et cetera. Then we've updated this facility assessment over time. And now, as I said before, we're wrapping up the new 2021 report. And actually, Troy's going to share with you now some highlights from that.
Thanks, Ron. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So as Ron mentioned, building systems all have a lifespan. It's not dissimilar to something on like your car, where you have to get things like your tires replaced and your oil changed. It's very similar for buildings as well. So at each of your buildings, we found certain things that were in need of being addressed. So this included some life safety work, which was actually done a couple of years ago. So there's still some open items that need to be addressed. In Euclid, it was things like door closers, on doors that needed to close automatically, and then things like dead end corridors, which is a corridor that you can't get out of except for one way. Beyond that, the facility assessment items that were found, you'll find are pretty typical across most of the buildings in your district. Things like masonry repairs, tuck pointing, things like that. Mechanical equipment replacement, that's a big one. Mechanical equipment typically has a 15 to 20 year lifespan depending on the different systems. And at most of your buildings, you're running up against that lifespan for the mechanical equipment there. Euclid is definitely one of them. Electrical panel and wiring replacement. This is going to be new for a lot of people. Most people don't think about replacing the wiring in your electrical system, but that does have a lifespan as well. Eventually, as it wears out, things start to fail. And that's true of both the infrastructure, the panels and the switch gear, but also the wiring and devices throughout the building. Galvanized piping replacement. So many of these buildings, in the older portions of the building, have galvanized piping for the water instead of copper. That was very popular in the 1960s. Galvanized piping is made out of steel, and it corrodes from the inside with the minerals in the water, and eventually it reduces the water quality and it cuts off the water pressure as those pipes close up from the rust inside the pipe. And then lastly would be roof replacement throughout the building. So roofing, like anything else, has a lifespan, and the roofs at Euclid are approaching the end of theirs. And so just as those things continue to age, they're more likely to have things like leaks and things like that. Indian Grove is essentially very similar to Euclid. Things like door closers and electrical repairs were noted as health life safety items. Masonry repairs, mechanical equipment replacement, electrical panel, galvanized piping, and roof replacement were all very typical, much the same way that they are at Euclid. At Indian Grove, one of the things that we saw was that there's a significant amount of paving that is in need of replacement. A couple of years ago, you guys replaced most of your paving at Euclid with permeable pavers, which are actually the exact same system that are here at River Trails. And at River Trails Middle School, again, it's more of the same. There are things like repairs to the fire doors and replacement of emergency lighting that were left over from the Health Life Safety Survey the last time it was done. And again, the same type of masonry repairs and mechanical equipment replacement. Again, roof replacement throughout the building. And much like Indian Grove, pavement replacement at RTMS as well.
Okay, so why buildings matter. So first comment, the amount of time that a student spends in the school is second only to the amount of time they spend at home. They spend a lot of hours in these school facilities, and here are some numbers over their average stay in a school facility. So what you do in your facility does matter to their health and wellness. And so related to that, I've actually included some links down here on the bottom, but that there's data out there that definitely supports the fact that these facilities have a big impact on student health and wellness. And these Harvard studies have a lot of very good data to support that statement. And so that's why this matters so much. This discussion tonight is setting the stage for decades of interface with the kids. And so that's why this is an important discussion. The second comment that I wanted to make about why buildings matter is the carbon contribution. Some people may know this, but it's always startling to me that buildings actually create just about 40% of carbon emissions globally on an annual basis. So these are big carbon producers, big carbon hogs, and it's part of the problem. And so our profession is actually trying to wrestle with this right now too. So is this an opportunity for you to do something different? And it may seem small and insignificant, but if everybody did small and insignificant improvements, we may get somewhere. So that's the other reason that this discussion tonight matters. And so what we're looking at right now and what we're building in the report is a system that's actually very similar to what Lyndall referenced earlier here at Prairie Trails. But here are some of the benefits of that system, again, relative to your other facilities. So clearly a ducted overhead system is going to give you much better air distribution, as well as reduce the noise in the classroom because of that distribution overhead. Your current unit ventilators, that 1950s technology actually pulls in the air through a small opening in the outside wall, and it has to push it across the classroom. So not only does that create noise, and if you have the proper velocity coming in, but it actually is a very poor temperature distribution. I mean, you have hot and cold pockets in that room, so it's just a lousy, outdated form of ventilation, but it's cheap. That's why people put it in. That's why they put it in their 50s, and people are still doing it because it's a very cost-effective system. So also the new overhead system will allow us to have more air changes in that classroom, which is a very important mitigation and indoor air quality measure to increase the air changes in that classroom. As Linda mentioned before, we're going to go with an overhead system, so we're opening up floor area. Some rooms may have some more and some rooms may have less, but clearly there's going to be additional teaching and instruction space coming out of a retrofit with an overhead system. And finally, we're going to be able to put in a new filtration system that's another sort of measure to improve the indoor air quality in the classrooms. We're looking at a minimum MERV 13, hopefully a MERV 14, because the MERV filtration system actually is able to pull virus particulates out of the air. And so clearly we need that ability, and this new system will give us that ability. So, with that.
So with all of that, the next step is really how we'll pay for this. We've started to look at some alternatives. We don't have anything for sure yet, but one possibility is that we can actually issue some alternate revenue bonds and then use fund balances, about $2 million a year. Over 15 years, we could fund about $20 million, which is about what we're looking at for the 2 elementary schools. And then we have been talking about a possibility of doing another referendum. So that's another possibility in 2025 to do a referendum again to fund what we might want to do at the middle school. For less than $1, if you are the owner of a $350,000 house, we could fund about $30 million for that. Now, the first option, doing the alternate revenue bonds and using fund balances, there is a risk of having to do some spending cuts in order to get to that $2 million a year. And of course, with the referendum, the risk is if it passes or not. And then Dan Whistler, our Buildings and Grounds Director, is going to talk a little bit about what happens if we don't do these upgrades that we're talking about here.
Good evening. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the cost of deferring going forward and making improvements in our facilities. So the first bullet, spending more money on systems that we have now. Basically, we're throwing good money after bad. We're continuously keeping the systems operational, and we have some good mechanics, and we're able to do that. However, we're basically spending money on maintaining systems that we could be spending the same dollars on purchasing modern systems that provide better air quality and overall better performance. So the second bullet, delaying upgrades now, has to do with the cost of equipment. Cost of equipment every year escalates rapidly. So the longer we delay, the longer we defer, the more the equipment will cost. So once again, it's not playing in our favor to delay. We have some damage from roof leaks. We're averaging in each school probably 3 to 4 roof leaks every quarter. We do bring in an expert. The expert works on the roof. Flat roofs are very difficult to troubleshoot, and they're difficult to repair. And the service people to come out and work on them are very expensive. So we're paying over $2,000 a visit to have people come out, pull back ballast off the roof, find leaks. A lot of times the leak is over there and it migrates across underneath the roofing material and ends up dripping over here. So it's costly when your roofs get old. Once again, you're throwing good money after bad. Mechanical power failures causing school closings. So I've only been with the district for 15 months, and I've learned a lot about the systems. We've had 3 instances since I've been here that we've had to have buildings close. One was a pipe break related to pipe breaking. One was a boiler mechanical system during the winter months that we weren't able to keep online. The other was a utility issue with ComEd. Ultimately, because we were fortunate that we had 4 outages in 4 days, ComEd agreed to provide us a full new service feeder at the middle school. So basically everything from the pole across Wolf Road into the school is brand new. But remember, the same infrastructure that was put in when the building was built, a lot of it still exists internally within the school. So we need to address that issue, or we're likely to have more closures, more delays, which obviously equates to a lot of inconvenience for families. And also, I think what it does is it doesn't allow the students to take the normal path and be in school every day, and it probably makes it difficult for them to learn when they're randomly out of school. Air quality affecting the staff. So Ron had talked a little bit about the univents, and I think Try it also. You know, the system that we have in place, the univents, they really weren't designed even for cooling. Originally, they were heating only systems. Cooling was added. The air distribution is not great. The environment is not as good as it could be. In this building, it's just amazing to work and look at the systems that were provided. The DOAS system provides constant air, controls humidity. Throughout the whole pandemic, we've agreed to run based on ASHRAE standards through the univents. And our systems on really warm days and maximum peak days are really struggling, and we're bringing a lot of moisture into the building. So we really weren't able to keep the temperatures we had hoped to maintain and keep the humidity levels where we wanted them. But of course, during COVID, our choice was to continue to provide outside air, and that's what we've done. The new DOAS system would allow us to bring in outside air and dehumidify, which would be a great benefit to all the occupants, the health and safety of the occupants. And ultimately, if we don't do something, the facilities just basically will continue to decline. It's not something that'll go away. It seems difficult because there's some big numbers here, but ultimately, if we don't react and do something for the systems, we're going to continue to have more mechanical problems, likely closures and other things that we really don't want. Thank you.
All right, that was a lot of information. Hopefully your head's not spinning and you know what you've been thinking about. If you changed your mind about what was most important to you, or you just have some questions. So what's going to happen in a moment is I'm actually thinking we could probably maybe push 2 tables together and do this side of the room and this side of the room so that you get some good discussion in. Online, you will be put into some breakout groups. So when you see a note that says join breakout group with a number, you'll click on that in a moment and you will join that group. You will have a facilitator in that group. The board members, you're gonna have to fight over to see who's gonna facilitate. But listen as you share your here's what, and listen to not repeat so we can go through that pretty quickly. What did you hear? What was important to you? The so what does that mean to you? Did you change your thinking? And then the now what, that really important, what should we do? What should we maybe do? What should we not do? And board members, if you would also have one of the board members at your table take notes so that I can get them. And online, we're going to have some folks taking notes. After about 20 minutes, we're going to regroup back. We'll hear a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about next steps. And then I will get all the information that people have shared tonight, and we will be ready for the next time we get together. So we're ready to regroup in here, and we're ready to regroup online. Yeah? 30 more seconds if you don't mind being patient online.
No, we're done.
We're done. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I heard some good discussions here. And I did walk through where all of the online discussion groups were happening because they had to divide themselves up. And it looked like there were some good discussions going on and some really good questions that were coming up. So let's just recap. We have had these 10-year facility plans, and I'm not sure, I did listen. I'm trying to think, like we've been running these 10-year facility plans since 2008.
2008 was the last one we did.
And then they get updated.
Absolutely. Every 2
and-
years.
And so this isn't like all of a sudden, it looks like we need to replace all these things. We've been planning, we know that these things happen. We can't wait to replace everything. You can't wait indefinitely, just like at your own home. We will review your feedback, that the notes that our facilitators took, looking for some common themes, if there are some new ideas or things that come out that we hadn't thought about, any questions that came up that you'd like answered. And we're going to get back together in March 1st, I think it is. And we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to have more detail. We're going to have some more ideas from what's been shared. I know that this is going to be shared online. So if people weren't here tonight and they want to see what happened, the only other thing that I want to make sure that you know is that we do have an opening on our Board of Education. And if anyone is interested in that, you can download the application online. You could call Patty Reyes at our district office. You could talk with any of our current board members to know how great a group they are to work with. And we'd love for you to join us. But we thank you all for coming and have a great night.